Good evening, everyone. We are on live tonight. We've got an awesome show. We've been promoting this tonight's episode for the last couple days. We have an awesome guest with us to kind of talk about accomplishing our goals and going after what we want. So if you are live with us, please help share, spread the word. I think that tonight we're going to learn a lot from our guests that we have on. And so the more the merrier to engage in the conversation and ask your questions. I think that Kelly and I do a pretty good job trying to get questions answered. And so if you've got a question, put it in the comment section when our guest is on, and we'll try our best to answer that. Hi, Lil Saint. How are you? And again, if you are joining us live, please make sure you help share and let us know where you're watching us from. We're just gonna, do our usual. Kelly is sharing it into her personal and some of the other groups so we can get more people to join us in this conversation, and then we'll get started. While she's doing that, there's enough of you on here to share. So as a reminder, we've got our Lovegram going on. We looked at some of the submissions, and oh my gosh, you guys, like, people are so sweet and I love it, and I can't wait for us to record the videos and the Lovegrams and post it on social media so you guys can kind of see. But if you are interested in sending a Lovegram to someone you love or a friend or a crush or whoever, go onto our website at www.allthattalkshow.com and put a submission in for your Lovegram. Hi, Chai from Florida. How are you? Thank you for tuning in always. We really appreciate your support. I know you're not here to just support us, but to support your friend as well. So thank you for tuning in. It'll just be a couple minutes here before we start. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Got some good supporters here. All right, we're almost ready. Just a couple more seconds here, and we'll bring our guest on. So again, if you're live, please help share. Let us know where you're watching us from. I just was talking about the Lovegram, but we've also got the Love Vault as well. Kelly and I just last weekend or the weekend after before we just reviewed all of the applicants, and we are starting the matching process. And so we've already reached out to a couple who we found matches for. We're super excited about that. So we've got August Child. Hey, my people. Oh, looking beautiful as usual. Thank you so much. Callie Yang says hi. Hi, Lucy. How are you? Miter Yang from Minnesota. Michelle says, oh my gosh, I know so many new single guys now. Ooh, okay. Please do share. Hello, hello. Is it Jay Hildner? Vang? So I can't believe I didn't get to meet you in Vegas. I know, girl. I saw all your pictures that you be posting, and we didn't even get to meet each other. I didn't bump into you at the event, but I saw that you went to Valley of Fire. It was beautiful in your Hmong clothes. You look gorgeous. But nonetheless, maybe one of these days we'll run into each other somewhere else. We've got Lipanya from Wisconsin. Hello, how are you? Thank you so much for joining. Callie, you almost ready? She's working hard away, you guys. She may not be looking, but her thumbs are like going to town. Just typing. Again, if you're joining, make sure you're sharing. Let us know where you're watching us from. We've got an awesome show tonight. I'm super excited. Callie and I had an opportunity to briefly talk to our guests for like 30 minutes before we bring him on the show and kind of figure all that good stuff. And we learned so much just kind of talking to him. And so we hope that by bringing him on, you guys will learn from him as well. From Michigan, Miter, that's I have not been to Michigan before. That's definitely one of the states that I would love to visit one of these days. Okay, we've got some. I know. So she said I was in Vegas for 2 hours. And when I got inside, it was over. Nay, nay. There's lots of reviews about that event. So we'll just let them review and give their feedback. And malinya don't know ritsu. But I'm glad
I
that
feel
you
like
had
I totally missed out on Vegas. It looked like
fun.
a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, it kind of depends how you just can't worry about anything else. And that's what my cousin and us girls did. We just, once we got in and we just said, you know what, all the stuff that happened, we'll just let it bygones be bygones. We'll just have fun with, the people that we have. So it was fun.
Yeah. I think the lineup looked really good with like old and new, and
Yeah.
those are some of the artists that I grew up listening to. So it was really nice to see somebody put that together, especially in Vegas, right? I think that maybe that was like the first big
Yeah.
concert like that in Vegas.
It was definitely a little bit of an older crowd because những day here you when you mean you it's in Vegas, you gotta book the hotel, you gotta book your flight, you gotta book a car rental. There's all these additional costs. And so I felt like the crowd was definitely older, but honestly, you make it what you will, I went to have fun and I think we established and conquered that. So
Yeah.
we made the best out of that. Oh my God. I just want to say that Gal says she's watching from Ratchet, Minnesota. I just thought that was really funny. Oh, so funny. Okay, so
Is there a city? Gals are a city named Ratchet? I don't know. Maybe there's I don't. Does that mean there's a city named Ratchet, or is it just because we know that's like not Vegas, but it's Hmong City, as I always
it's
like to call
Hmong
it.
City. That's where the word ratchet came from. I don't think that it's maybe it's an imaginary like city within St. Paul, Minneapolis area. But
Yeah.
I think that's. I just thought that was really funny reading that.
Make sure to share this video if you have not done so. Our guest today
Yes.
is spectacular and has a wealth of information that if you're looking for inspiration, if you're looking for motivation, if you're looking to just level up this year, it's a great opportunity to listen from him. And feel free to ask questions in the comments. We will get to them as we go through this interview. So just let us know.
Yeah.
Gal says people say if you want to be ratchet, go to Minnesota. Nah. Oh, okay. On that off. Yeah.
But before we bring on our guests, I do just want to quickly mention again that we have our Lovegram happening. Callie and I are doing something that we just thought it would be super fun, and of course, it's free. Go in and put in a submission, send a Lovegram to a loved one. We're not charging it at all whatsoever. We just thought it would be really fun for us to read whatever it is that you write, sing whatever it is that you wrote, whatever you want. You just got to put it on there. We'll try our best to like do it right. A lot of the ones we've gotten so far are just kind of like messages, and so we'll have some fun kind of reading it. And I'm not gonna lie, I read some stuff today, and it was so sad. So just
it doesn't have to be
it
doesn't have to be like a long, super long. Now it can be simple. It doesn't have to be to a partner. It can be a friend. It could be, like your parents, your children, your cousin, just someone that needs to hear something, right? I think that, and our, like being Hmong, we are so used to not expressing those things. And I think that it's really time for us to change it, because I think COVID has proven to us that, time really doesn't wait. And you really should say all the things that you want to now, versus like when they're not there, right? And so I think we want to see more of that, right? We want to see more people expressing how you feel, telling people that you love them, that you care about them, that you're thinking about them. And so please definitely, just if you know there's somebody in your life that needs to hear just some words of encouragement or a reminder that, they are worthwhile to be in this world. I think that that's, exactly why we did this. And so please do definitely definitely do go to our website. Again, that's all that talkshow.com. /lovegram. And so please go there and just drop somebody a note. We will start sending those out publicly on all our social media platforms on February 14th through the end of the month. And so we are looking forward to reading those and getting those out.
Yeah. And then the other thing is our Love Vault. We have already started the matching or pairing process, and we've already reached out to a couple of people in the Love Vault that we found matches for. So if you are single and Valentine's Day is coming up and you're looking for someone to possibly take out or be your Valentine, get yourself into the Love Vault. It's a continuous process for us. We're continuously looking at all the applicants that come in and trying to match them up. So there's that too. So if you don't have anybody to send a lovegram to, enter the Love Vault. So then you can send it to, okay?
Well done, Olivia. I love that. Play on that.
Oh, goodness gracious. So many love. We've got Finding Love, we've got Love Vault, we got Lovegram. There's just Kelly and I are just all about.
We are trying to help you guys out. So if you then that's on you, okay?
At the guy back on,
Yeah.
All right, that's all the updates that I've got for this for today. So I don't know if there's anything else I missed, Kelly.
That is it.
All right, then I will hand it off to you. Let's bring our guests on and let's start asking him some of these questions.
All right. So we have our guest today, and we were able to nab him because I know that a while back we had done a post to get him onto the show. And just because we asked doesn't mean they always come. So this one was kind of like until finally, I don't know, he just had people whispering his ear to come on with us. But finally,
thank you to whoever those people are.
I know, persistence, right?
No, we had to put it out in the universe, and thanks to those of you who reached out and said, see, you just need to give these girls a chance. You just got to go on.
No, and unfortunately, he doesn't live here. Otherwise, but thankfully he agreed. We did not have to do any at all. So, but our guest today is Thao, and Thao graduated from the University of Minnesota Morris in 1995 with a double major in political science and studio arts. He helped create the Center for Hmong Arts and Talent, which is also known as CHAT, and they do their annual fashion show, if you're familiar with that, with some friends. He also received the Bush Artist Fellowship, which he used to complete the Hmong Migration Series, a 50-painting set telling the story of the Hmong people's 5,000-year history. The paintings are now part of the Minneapolis Institute of Arts permanent collection. And then that's just the beginning part, right? So this guy has an amazing background. So he's an artist. All right, moving on to the second thing. In 2003, he was elected to the Minnesota House of Reps. There he served for 8 years until 2010. During his time as a House of Rep, he and his wife went into business building assisted living facilities. He is currently looking to expand his Florida facility into a 120-bed operation and plans to retire after the project is completed. So with that, we are going to bring him on.
Good evening.
Yep. Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for making time for Callie and I. We didn't have to, as one of our viewers here, guest nap you.
Yeah, you guys talk about that sending to the universe. My wife is into that.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
And I said, whenever she sends it to the universe, I have to make it happen.
I love that.
So you need a partner where you send it to the universe and the partner makes it happen.
Can someone tag my husband? He's not home. Make sure he hears that. I'm putting stuff into the universe and he needs to make it happen for me.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it. That's why. So it probably keeps happening, which is why she keeps sending it to the universe.
Yeah. I love it. Yes, the universe is awesome. And I mean, I feel like we put a post out before and someone had tagged you, and then you said you weren't ready, or you just not quite ready for the show yet. And I'm just glad that you accepted our invite and
I'm happy
on.
to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I think you come with a bunch of like knowledge and experience that I think a lot of people can learn from you. I know I definitely did within
that just means I'm old.
No, you wisdom, right? And experience.
Yeah, but I think you just But like the great thing about your background, y'all, is because you have done so much and have so much experience leading you to where you are today. And I feel like because my so your name first came up with my brother Plur. He had told me about you, and I've just known about the business side of you because he also was in business, and just really admired you. But then when we started talking to you, it was like, oh my gosh, like what have you not done? Like it was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right into it. I think that so let's talk about the artist side of you, right? And so you received the Bush Artist Fellowship when you were just 25 years old. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about how you got into art and just some of your takeaways from like having done that fellowship and your experience with that.
Sure. So, man, I feel like I lived 3 lifetimes, and when I was in college, it was a time to search, right, within yourself. And so I wanted to know more about my own history. And so that led me to reading, researching about the Hmong history, the history of the Hmong. And I just thought, maybe I like how those pandao, how those ladies do the pandao, and essentially that they're just telling the whole story of the Hmong people in the pandao without words. So I figured if I could turn the same ideas into paintings, and instead of do one piece, I do a large series. So I end up with 50s, and each piece tells its own story. So I started that in college, and I did like a couple pieces, and then after that I kind of give up. And then after I graduated from college, I actually wrote down a goal. It said within 5 years I'm gonna show my artwork at the Minneapolis Institute of Art or the Walker, right? Those are the 2 big galleries or the big museums in Minnesota. And I wrote a goal in somewhere that I was going to do that. And so I went about in pursuing that. And as I was painting those pieces, I got about maybe 10 pieces done. That's after I graduated from college. And at one time I was a teacher too. I have a teaching license. I taught for a year, so I didn't like it. Anyway, so at night I was painting, and then I got 10 pieces done, and I found out about the Arts Fellowship. I was hanging out with a lot of the artists myself. There was a group of artists, and we were hanging out in Minnesota, in St. Paul there, and we kind of grew up together. And I applied to the fellowship, and it was an easy application. I just said, give me, I think 50,000. Yeah, give me the money, and I'll quit my job, and I'll paint for a whole year and finish the series. That was my whole application.
Wow.
It was 1 paragraph long. That was it. And the lady just gave me 50,000. So I took that money and I quit my job. And at that time, I have already started chat. I already got chat going, and I raised a lot of money for chat. And I kind of let that go. And so I quit, and I start painting. It took me maybe from researching all the way to the completion. It took me about 5 years. And I got 50 pieces, but majority of them was done within that 1 year when I got the Arts Fellowship, where I was painting 5 to 10 pieces at the same time. Different era, different scenes. I had easels all over my house. So I was living the life of an artist. And within a year and a half, I finished it. and then I start showing in the parking lot where where Chat was at Chat's office. We showed in the parking lot, and then a couple of museums, couple of places were interested, and I started getting shows. And then the last place was the Minneapolis Institute of Art. I had a big show there, and they extended the show because so many people were still coming after the show closed. So they extended it for a couple more months. And then after I finished the show, they just kept it. They won't give it back to me. They said, "What are you going to do with it?" I said, "I don't know. I'm just going to throw it in my basement." They said, "No, we'll keep it here to preserve it." So they kept it there for, I don't know, 10 years or something. And a new lady got hired. They created a new museum, a new wing of the museum. And she called me up and she said, "Hey, we want to buy your stuff." I said, "How much?" She said, 25 for half of it. I said, "You got to buy the whole thing." So she got 50 pieces for $30,000.
Wow.
And that was the time when I was doing my business and I was struggling, and I had $0 left, and I had a big $30,000 bill, tax bill, property tax bill. And I said to her, "Okay, 30,000, but write me the check tomorrow." She said, "I can't. I gotta go through Laura." I said, "I don't care what you gotta go through. I need a check tomorrow." "Well, give me 30,000 tomorrow." So she wrote me the check. The next day, I went, picked it up, deposited, paid my property tax on my assisted living project, and after I paid it, it started going up, and I started making money, and uh, so those art saved, in a way, saved my business from going bankrupt too. So I was very
That's the
fortunate.
universe working its magic.
That's
I
right.
didn't send it out.
You didn't hear.
You thought it out.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking.
You
I
didn't
need
hear.
help. Somebody help me out. And it's just like he said, it's kind of almost magic, where I really needed the money, and that lady just called me out of the blue and said, "Well, buy it."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, okay." I need the money at that moment too. So
But that's
they have it right
amazing.
now, and they rotate the pieces. So there's always at least 1 to 2 pieces at the museum, all the time.
Very nice.
So
That's
I offer to
amazing
buy
that
back.
you
They won't sell back
like
to me.
that's just like the fact that you had created art that was worth 30,000. Like, I wish I can create art that's worth 30,000. That's absolutely amazing.
I think
Honestly.
right now I probably won't sell it for 100
Yeah.
if I still had it.
Do
Yeah,
you have pictures of each of the pieces?
yeah. It's on my Facebook.
Yeah.
When you
Okay.
scroll through, it's at the end. When you scroll through all my pictures, you see all the goofy pictures. At the end, you see all the paintings.
They're all the way at the end. I'm gonna have to scroll through and see, because I think that
Yeah, and then
I'm
we turn
interested
into
to
a
see
book too. Yeah.
like what
So
did you create in order to sell it for 30,000
yeah,
based
so
on just
there's a
like your
book.
perspective.
Her her
Her
publishing.
publisher. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those guys create it into a book. So if you want to buy their
Oh,
book, you just go through those guys. There's a
Okay.
book,
okay.
and I wrote the description and everything on the pieces. So it's
Mm,
pretty informative, for
yeah.
especially for kids that are struggling, trying to find out who they are. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it tells the story of the Hmong people, like from the myth all the way to China, to Laos, to Thailand, to the U.S.
What is the name of that book?
It's
Do you
the
remember?
Hmong Migration. It's just same thing as
Okay.
the painting. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a long time ago. I think after I retire, I probably will go back and paint
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I will go and look at that, and then, if any of you viewers are interested, let me know. I will post it onto our all that talk page, and you guys can go in and look at that. I think that's pretty interesting. Especially it's a good piece to have and go back so we can read
Yeah,
up
I
on it.
think you could just Google Thao painting or Hmong migration. It should pop up. Whole bunch of stuff will pop up.
Okay. Yeah. I will definitely look at that. All right, Callie, you got any more questions about his art background?
Nope, we can move into
So,
politics. We can move
I
into
know.
second life. Yeah.
So into his second life, because you said you've lived like 3 lifetimes. Into your
Yeah.
second lifetime, we want to talk about your background in politics. So obviously you ran for and was elected a Minnesota House of Representatives. So can you just kind of tell us about your journey? How did you get into
Sure.
the political world? Why did you go into it?
Sure. So earlier I was talking about us hanging out with a whole bunch of artists, right? So there was in '98, there's the radio station made fun of Hmong people in Minnesota, and we demanded an apology. So a whole bunch of artists got together, and we protested, we marched, we organized, and at the end we got an apology from the radio station, and we're like all surprised by it, that it worked, right? And that was at that point, that's when a lot of us woke up to this realization of political movement. And I went a little farther with the understanding that, for us to really change anything, we have to be at the table to make a lot of the decisions, right? We can't just be reactive all the time, and protest. You have to be at the front and to make major decisions to steer the community. So the best way to get in was just get elected and go make decisions, right? So that was my thought, and we looked at it. We look at the time. At the time, there was maybe 2,000 Hmong people were voting in Minnesota, and I knew I wasn't my first election. I was not going to win, so the whole idea was to run and register Hmong people and get people to get involved politically, to get them energized. The best way to energize them was to have a campaign, right? To strive for something. And so we ran with the idea of registering, getting the Hmong community to become politically active. And I knew I had a goal too. At that point, I had a lot of goals, right? I thought, okay, in 10 years, maybe after we create this political movement and gain all this knowledge, maybe in 10 years I might win an election. So that was my mindset. First year I lost, but after that we had registered close to 10. By then we have about 10,000 Hmong people on the election roll.
Wow.
They were voting, and that was like an amazing feat that we did for the community. And luckily the guy that I ran against retired that year, the following year. And so it opened up an opportunity for me to run. And I didn't know how to caucus. I didn't know any of this, how to campaign. But when I was the first time I campaigned, I met a lot of older guys. They're really good strategists. And so I brought them in on board, and they showed me how to run campaigns, right? And so when we ran the second time, we brought more people in and taught us the system, the process on how to caucus, how to go to convention, how to get endorsed. After that, how to win the primary, and then after the primary, how to win the general election. So I had a lot of people who ran presidential campaigns before came on board with me just because they're bored, and they got a lot of knowledge and they just want to share. So I had a lot of those folks got involved, and I ran the second time, and that's when I won. I became a state representative for 65A, which covers mostly Frogtown. Where the Hmong Town. That flea market, the big flea market where all the Hmong people. Yeah, it covers that part. And at that time, 30% of the residents were Hmong, and 30 were blacks, and 30 were whites. So it was pretty evenly split. And so I knew I had a good chance. And so we ran and worked really hard. And I knocked on every door. I went to every door in the district 3 times.
Wow.
And I introduced myself to them and got them comfortable with me. And so that allowed me to win. And after I won, I was it opened my eyes to how the system works, you know, and I was able to do some stuff. I think the stuff that I'm the most proud of is stuff that was never been publicized or is not recognized anywhere. You know, there was one time where the police chief called me and said, "Hey, Sai, something's going down. What do you think?" And I give him my advice, and he took it, and we prevented issues from happening. You know, and so a lot of that stuff was happening behind the scene. Or another one was the I remember I have a buddy from when I was teaching. He has now become he went through principal school, and he was assistant principal, and he couldn't get into into becoming an assistant principal, because you need to become an assistant first, then get promoted to become a principal. But he finished schooling, and so they applied to St. Paul Public School, and none of them got in. So he came to me and he said, "Hey, sorry, 5 of us applied, none of us got in." So I was a state representative at that time, and so I went to the lobbyist for the St. Paul Public School. I said, "I want to talk to the superintendent," and they said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I want to talk about these 5 individuals." I wrote their names on a sheet. I handed to her. These 5 more individuals, they finished principal school. They can't get into become assistant principal to move into on track to become principal. What? Give me the reason why. And then she came back next week. She said, "Well, there's politics, there's union issue," and then I'll tell you exactly how I said to her. I said, "I don't give a fuck what the issue is. Are these people smart enough to be principal, or you guys, they all graduated from St. Paul, or are you guys teaching stupid people? You know, I don't give a fuck what the reason is." And then 2 weeks later, my buddy calls me and said, "Oh, 3 of them became assistant principal."
That's amazing.
And so it's little stuff like that I was able to do, that I was probably the most proud of my time up there. And there's many instances I could sit here and talk about all day, but being in that position allowed me to call the superintendent or the vice or the president of the university up and bitch him out if I think he was wrong.
Yeah.
So
Like
that was I did that for 8 years, and it was time to move on, and my business was growing at that time. So a lot of stuff I was doing, it was interconnecting, right? So my artwork, and then went to politics, and then while I was doing politics, my business, I was building my business, and it was coming up, and I couldn't afford to do both. I had to choose between one or the other, and so I chose to build my business instead of staying in politics. And that's the piece I miss the most, is being in a position where I could advocate for the community behind the scene.
Yeah, so Sai, I just want to point out like how you had said, we need to be at the table, and like what you did was being at the table, right? And like
Right.
representing us, and I think that we need more people to step up. And I'm sure like for you being at the top, it was a sometimes lonely place to be, right? Because
Yeah.
you have to make calls and you have
It
to.
was me and Senator Moore.
Yeah. Yeah, and so but the fact is that you were able to open doors for, these 3 folks that needed your help, and many other, like you said, that you won't have time to share today, but just the fact that, you were able to represent what Hmong people were. And just another thing I wanna mention is the fact that you realized that it was a long game, that you weren't gonna get elected the first time, but you have a strategy of like, this is what we need to do to progress our people forward, and then we can come in and take that position. So just
Yeah.
really great points there, perseverance.
Yeah, the long game was, I got elected the second year, but 10 years later, 5 or 6 Hmong individuals elected to the state house. I mean, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is honestly really awesome. Anything else on that, Olivia?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any questions related to his second lifetime, so I think we can move
All
on
right,
to the
let's
third.
go to the third question. So you alluded to this, and I know a lot of people who are on are wanting to hear about this too. And so, of course, like you said, you were in politics, and then you got, associated with all the living facilities. So maybe you can even just talk about what that transition was, and then
Sure.
just like how you even decided like that you're going to stop doing politics, right? Because I think sometimes when we have two great things that are in front of us, it can be hard to decide, like, where should I go? What should I do? And then if you can just talk about, what that business world was like, and maybe some of the takeaways that you've learned from your past and applied it to your business now.
Sure. So while I was at the Capitol, I learned one thing, a very, very, my dad asked me that question. He said, you're the only son that's been, you travel, you've seen stuff, you've been elected. What was, what's the most important thing you've seen, or you, what's one thing that you saw? I told him, I said, money. That's when I told him that, because I realized while I was at the Capitol, money runs the world. Whoever has money runs the world. I'm up there doing the work for people with money. And that's when I realized money runs the world. And that's when I told my dad, from that moment on, I was going to focus on making money, just making money, so I could have a bigger say in how my world is run, you know. And so we started really small. It's my wife's grandma needed a assisted living facility for her. There wasn't any. We looked around. There wasn't any, because she had a specific diet and language issue, right? So we went to the county. There wasn't one that was serving the Hmong community. So we asked them if there was one. They said no. So that's when we decided to build one for her. And so that decision was, so my wife and I were pretty strategic about it. My wife, I made her quit her job so she could focus 100% on the assisted living, on building it, while I kept my job and helped her part-time. And so we went hand in hand. And after a year, we blew through like 40,000. We finally got our first client and our first building, which is just a house of 5 bedrooms. And every year after that, we kept adding a new house, because my focus was not just to be satisfied with that one house, was to keep investing, keep just multiplying, right? My whole idea was just to multiply everything. I don't need to reinvent. Once I figure out how to do one house, I could just multiply 2, 3 houses, and every year I add one. So 4 years later, I have 4 houses with a total of 20 rooms. And so we're generating great income, well, great money, more money than I ever made in my life, right? And then the 5th year, we figure, okay, the little houses it's too small. Let's go big. So then we looked at some land, and we bought this old grocery store, turned it into a 35 unit. I I did not know how to plan, no budget, anything. Because I was running a house, small house. Now I'm running this big facility, and I ran out of money in the middle of the project. And that's when the art money came in handy. When I ran. So this one thing I learned is, you gotta have money ready, but you can't go to the bank asking for money when you need it. I went to the bank. I went to my bank. I said, "Look, I'm short of money. Can you borrow me 50,000 to continue? I know the project's gonna have. I'm gonna make money, but I need to buy time." But that's when they say no to you. So I learned the hard way. Don't ask for money when you need it. Ask when you don't need it. So that's one lesson that I learned. And we built a 35 unit within a year. we were profiting, and we're just making great money. Then a year later, I refinanced. Well, I went back to the same bank and I said, look, you saw my spreadsheet. You saw how much money I'm making. If you give me another $2.5 million, I could double everything we do. And I happened to have a lunch. I was having lunch with the president of the bank. I was surprised. He just said, "Yeah, we'll do it." I'm like, "What? Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah." It took me a year to really believe that he was serious. So I sent in all the paperwork. They gave me $2.5 million. I added 30 more rooms to it, and now we got 69 rooms, and now we're just killing it. We more than double our profit. We're like 4 times what we were making. It's just crazy. And then in 2019, the end of that, I sold it. I sold that project in Minnesota. Well, I sold the 4 single family homes to a Hmong couple, and they got those guys are amazing. They barely speak English, but they're killing. They're making more money than I ever made with that 44 buildings. And since then they opened a 28 unit, and I haven't talked to them, but I think they're just killing it too. So anyway, back to my story. So we sold a 69 unit. While I was selling it, I have a plan to build a 120 unit down here in Florida, and I built it in phases. So the first phase, we got 50 unit up, and as soon as we got it up, COVID hit, and it was just like everything tanked, and I was just, oh man, I was losing $60,000 a month, for a year and a half, and it was just, well, I kept feeding it, and the last 2 months, we finally profit. We're profiting very well, and so right now, because of the profit, I'm working with another bank to refinance that, to give me a loan to build the other 70 unit for a total of 120 units. And as soon as I get that up and running, my plan is to sell it and then retire from doing business, but do other stuff with the money that I have accumulated. And I kind of started that process already doing like philanthropy, So I'm starting that. I'm helping kids to go to college, helping families to start small businesses for themselves, not here, but families back in Laos. And I went back there, I saw how poor they were. And so I figured they probably need more help than the families here. So I'm pumping a lot of money into philanthropy over there. So that's kind of where I want to spend maybe the end of my life to do philanthropy and maybe go back and paint.
You're such an inspiration.
Yeah. Can we go back to when you guys first started, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't have experience in assisting living facilities at all, but so how did you know what to even do? And like hiring people to help, like how did you know
licensing?
So people are scared because people think it's rocket science. It's not. It's just a lot of work that needs to be done, right? So we learn all the policies from doing the 4 single family homes. We learn the policies from doing that. And basically when we go 35, it's just magnifying it, right? You just multiply it. So you need, so many residents, you need so many PCA, and you just hire as you need them. And you need a cook, you need a nurse. You need someone to count the money and pay the bills. And so you just kind of hire as you need. And it's not rocket science, but it's just work that needs to be done. And as the owner, you have to be on top of it. Make sure everyone's doing their job. And if they're not doing their job, you have to also know their job where you can step in and do it. And that's one thing I learned is my wife and I, we know every job in the business. So if someone was to quit, we could jump in and do it. I jumped in and cooked. I
Yeah.
cooked. I cleaned the toilet before. I put Carrie ladies into bed. So we're able to. You have to be able to learn all those jobs in case you are needed. But the valuable piece that I learned was you gotta find the right individuals, the
Mm-hmm.
right people to work for you, and you train them to have them work the way you want to see the business operate. And I'll tell you a great story. You know, our business was generating $4 million, and we were going through these professionals who had degrees to run the facility while we live in Florida. We were running it from Florida for like almost 10 years. And at the end, the lady that was the most capable was this Hmong lady. She only graduated from high school, but she's smart as heck. And she's done every job in the business. So she knows just as much as we do. And we train her how to run a $4 million business. And she
Wow.
has, because she was smart, but she didn't have the degrees. And she was a typical Hmong lady in the 90s where they got married early, had kids, had to come and raise the family, so they didn't go to school, but she's smart as heck. So we trained her, and she was and she was the best executive that we had running our
Mm-hmm.
business at that time. And so one thing we learned was don't judge people based on educational level. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's one. Two, train train people. You got to have the right people in place to run the business where you don't need to be there where it's going to make money by itself.
Yeah.
So that was something that you had to find finesse. There's no science to it. There's just an art. It's you just gotta find the right fit, the right people, the right temperament, and dedication, and get them in there. So I learned that through doing a lot of business is, you know, if you have the right people in your business, you could go very, very far.
Yeah. I do want to address. I think Baova has a really great question here, and I want to get your thoughts on this. She said, "So obviously there are so many traditional values with Hmong elders and families not wanting to go into assisted living situation. How did you navigate through breaking these traditions?"
Okay, so when we had the four small facilities, the most Hmong residents I had. So the plate Minnesota had what, 80,000 Hmong people. The most I had was 10 Hmong elders.
Mm,
Because of that, because they don't
yeah.
want the families, don't want their grandparents or their parents to be in the facility because it looks bad on them, right?
Yeah.
But in
Hmm.
reality, let's say the grandma has dementia, and she doesn't even know where she is most of the time. That's why in St. Paul, every now and then you hear about a story of an elder Hmong person wander off and dies in the snow. Those are folks with dementia, and the families don't have the capability to watch them 24 hours. And that's what the facility is. We have staff, and we have the physical building in place to monitor them. And so I think we sell ourselves short by letting our culture dictate the service that our community members need, or our elders. I tell you, the 10 people that live there, they loved it. If you ask them to go home, they don't want to go home because they
Yeah.
get service 24 hours. They get the food they want. They don't have to watch the kids. Sometimes some of our elders are at home. They need to be taken care of, but they're watching kids, and so we're doing them a disservice. But I think eventually maybe our generation will be more comfortable in going into these facilities. And not only the Hmong community, at the same time, a lot of my residents right now, they're white, and they have the same similar issues as well. Like a lot of the kids feel really bad when they place mom into the facility. And so my job to make it easy for them is I make my facility the best looking place. I make it look so nice that when the kids come in, even they want to live there. So then they don't feel bad, right? They don't feel bad leaving the mom there because it's so nice, and the service is so great that they themselves want to live there. And so those are some of the little things that we do to alleviate that fear. But I think the need in the Hmong community is still very great. You guys talked about mental health issue and all that stuff, and our community is still very far behind in accessing these health programs and stuff that could help us grow, right? Not only grow, but maintain and live a quality life. Now, there's so much mental health in our community that we don't want to address, and but there's going to come a time where we have to, because without it, I think we're just gonna live on the edge of society for a while. But I think as we get different generation takes over, we view those as less important, and actually go seek out help, medical help.
Yeah, I do feel like I do hear of a lot more like older Hmong people going into like assisted living or like retirement homes now. So I think that it is starting to slightly shift in the other direction, which I think is great. Because like they need like, I'm gonna just use my mom for example. She's not around older people unless like Beit Waneng or something like that.
Right.
And
They need the
especially
peers.
and especially in areas where like in Minnesota or heavily Hmong like populated Hmong people are, I think it's always great when you can be in a place like that where you're also engaging with other elderly Hmong folks. Because I think like for people like my mom, I think that's why her depression is at its highest that it is now, or worse, because she doesn't have anybody, and that's why she's constantly like calling to go visit her or take the kids to go see her, because she can't drive anymore, so she can't take herself to her friend's house. And if anything, that's what she calls everybody to bug them because she's lonely. And I think in situations like that where mental health does come into play, it is very important for them to go out and engage and have conversation and make friends and not watch kids.
Yeah. I mean, we're starting to see more and more services out there. And, you have Hmong psychologists that are trying to help, and so I think I'm optimistic that the services are out there and people are starting to utilize it. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So for someone who may want to start a assisted living facility today, what would be your advice?
If they want to, the market is still very big. A lot of people are interested, but at the end of the day, it is a lot of work, I think not just assisted living, but any business, but assisted living, because we require so much staffing, right? You got to learn how to manage your staff and then manage your residents. So it's a 24-hour job. So if you're willing to do that, then I think you'll be successful. Like essentially, I mean, the way my wife and I did it was she quit her job. We saved enough money, and we were going to spend all that money just on the project. and I make sure that we still my salary still pay for the car, the bills, the mortgages, food, right? And her time was dedicated 100%, 24 hours the whole year just to build assisted living until we generate enough income. Uh, and 5 years later, it was enough for me to quit my job, and so but you have to go in with that mindset. And a lot of people see what I do, and they think it's a get quick scheme. It's not. If you think it's a get quick scheme, it's not. You had to go in there for the long haul, and have to be willing to invest your time. But it's doable. I One time I offered this consultant, where I became a consultant, and I offered to this friend, and him and his sister, they were able to open a 16 unit. And after they opened, they haven't called me. So they must be, usually that means they're doing well.
Yeah.
Usually they call you is when they're panicking, right? They haven't called me. The Hmong family that I sold to, they had zero experience, but they came in and they bust their butts. And after I sold to them, and we not only sold to them, we taught them how to run it for a year. That was part of the agreement, right? And after we left them, they haven't called us at all either. So those are usually good indicators that they're doing well. So the market is still out there, but you have to give it all. I have had a lot of people ask me, and they do halfway, and when it gets to the part where they have to put the money down and really quit their job and do it full time, not a lot of them want to do that. And so that's kind of like the stumbling block, if you are, of sort. So yeah, the market's still there if they want to do it. There's resource out there. I don't know if I want to consult anymore. I don't know. I work right now. Because I'm babysitting my facility, trying to get it built. I'm doing like 5 days a week, and on the weekend I just want to sit back and play with my dog or something.
So, I mean, obviously you have been so successful at anything that you take on, whether that's art or politics or your assisted living business. So overall, like, what traits do you think are most important in order for one to achieve their goals? And what are your traits that have made you successful? Like,
okay,
I would like to know.
So my buddy Chai Vang, Chai's putting together the millionaire conference, right? He
Yep.
The Hmong Hustler. So me and
Yeah.
Chai, we always joke around, and Chai always said, "So Sai, what would you say to people if they were to ask you how to be successful?" And I said, "Chai, all you need is big balls." Not in the literal sense that but meaning you had to be willing to take big risk.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm assuming you're talking about this one.
Yeah. And so go to Hmong Hustler, and then you could sign up. But anyway, so me and Chai, I always tell Chai, you gotta have big balls. Here's what I mean by that is you have to be willing to take the take the chance. You can't be scared. I have so many people that I work with, and they get to the point where they have to put out the money and put in the time, and that's when they all back out. And so that's when I call you don't have any balls. And so you have to be willing to take the chance. Let's say if I never took the chance, I would never be there. If I was worried about losing all my money, I probably won't be here. I was at a mindset where I set aside a whole bunch of money, and I said, I'm going to spend all of it just to build this business. And if I lose all of this money, it's okay. I'm not going to cry, right? I even told my wife, I said, if I lose all this money, I need to work at Burger King's. I'm gonna go work at Burger King's. I could rebuild. And the and I made a conscious decision when we were gonna open the 35 unit when it costs a lot of money. We had to sign a $3 million loan. That Christmas, I thought I was gonna be broke. So I went and bought the most expensive Christmas gift I can afford for my two daughters, thinking that I might not be able to afford anything anymore after that.
Yeah.
Because I was risking everything, everything, and you have to be willing to do that, to get anywhere. And then the second piece is once you got there, you can't be comfortable. You know, once you starting to become comfortable, you just kind of cruise and you're not challenging yourself. So for me, once I made $1 million, my goal is to make two next year. I might not make two, maybe $1.5 million, or maybe just a little over $1 million. But I have to have a goal, right? And when you have that goal, then you have to find ways to get there, and that's kind of consistent with my whole life, right? Where every time when I want to do something, I put a goal in place. And once I have the goal, I don't just not work on it. You have to work on that goal and say, okay, now I have this goal. How do I get there? And you start putting the process step by step together. And the other thing I have is persistence. You don't give up, right? But at the same time, you got to be smart enough to know when to quit as well. But you got to be persistent enough to say, you know what, I could withstand another more year. I could do it. I always tell people, I always joke with them. I It's okay to make mistakes. Just don't make a big mistake enough that it kills you. I made so many mistakes, man, in my in my business. If you add all the money together of the mistakes I made, I probably could have bought 5 or 6 MBAs. Like each MBA is what, 100,000, right? I could have paid for 5 or 6 MBAs with the money I lost. Yeah, and you can't be afraid. You can't worry and say, oh my God, that's so much. No, once you make the mistake, you learn something from it. You learn not to do it again. And if you're still doing it, if you redo it, you're just too stupid. But you learn not to do it again, and you build on that. And as you build more, you go farther and farther. And eventually, when you look back, you're like, wow, okay, I did something. And that's the thing is, each of us live one time. You know that? There's no reset button at the end. And you have a choice. You could just coast and do nothing, or you could say, you know what? I could take a chance, do something, make some mistake, and at least I try, right? I try something.
Yeah.
Or you will be surprised. You might be successful, at it. I didn't think I'd be here. I didn't think I'll be where I am when I started out. But I would not be here if I didn't take those steps, and try to do something with my life, knowing that I have one chance, one life. That's what my painting professor told me. So you have a chance to be good at one thing. You better figure it out and do it quick. Because eventually, by the time you figure it out, you won't have, if you're doing too many things, you won't have time left. So I don't know. I was greedy. I did 3 things. So
yeah.
But I definitely feel like all your experiences, and your relationships have really gotten you to where you are, which I think is great.
Oh yeah, everything intertwined, interconnected. Like when I was running chat, I learned how to manage people, how to budget, and I use that with my business. And when I was at the state capitol, I learned how to conduct meetings. I learned how to anticipate people and feel and engage. There's I read people, and you need a lot of that when you're in business. If you can't read someone, you don't know what they're trying to say to you or what they're trying to communicate. And if you do it wrong, if you say the wrong thing to the banker, he's not going to give you the loan.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I learned from the capital is know when to say what to who. And because when I was over there, I grant meetings to everybody, and every day I have 15-minute meetings with everybody. Gets a meeting with me, and it's only 15 minutes long per person, all day. And within that 15 minutes, I better figure out what you want, what your issue is, whether I can support you, and if I cannot, what am I going to say to you without pissing you off, right? And so through that, I learned how to read people better. And so that has helped my business because you need that to motivate, to coach, to train your staff, right? You know, if they're mad, you got to figure a way how to get them back on board. If they're not producing, you got to find a way to get them to produce more. You know, you got to learn how to talk their language, you know. And so a lot of those skills come into play in my business.
Yeah.
So question on just when you look at Hmong businesses, what is one thing is there one thing that you can just see and what you would do better in those businesses?
One thing I could do better. I need more money to build more projects. No, I need to figure out to connect with the right people. It's connection too. I have to find better connections with the right people to provide what I need to build more faster. So because what I'm doing, I'm just duplicating. Okay. So now I need to network, find better network. Sometimes you find someone who's really crummy and you get ripped off. You can't get depressed. Just move on and start networking and find the right people and build your team, you know. So I think that's something that I'm still working on even today is to be better at it, is to find a better network of funders or people that are willing to loan money uh, besides banks or even banks, find better banks. All banks, not every bank is the same. That's one thing I learned. Okay. So you just got to know how to ask and who to ask. And so once you get into this business, you meet more individuals. But I wish I was more connected, right? That's one thing.
Yeah.
You make us all feel behind because with your background, you are more connected than anybody, any Hmong person that I know. And so you really make me feel so behind.
I'm over here listening, yes, I'm taking note mentally. Keep talking. Yes.
No, but I remember I started somewhere, right? I started with no connection. And you just got to build it. You know, you got to build it. And I keep telling people, they say, hey, what's a great business to get in? I truly believe you can make money in any business. You just need to put in the time and be better at it than your competition. You can still charge the same price. You got to have better service or better product or both. If you could do that, your customers will come. You will build your customer. And you can't be afraid. I mean, I started out selling balloons, you know. In 8th grade, I borrowed $25 from my dad, and I went and make helium balloons and sell it at the soccer tournament, you know? And that's how I that's, that's when I started my first business, you know? And so
I love it.
you have to have kind of have that spirit to just start and not be afraid to fail. And you will meet, I guarantee you, once you make something, you make stuff, you become successful, those connections, they will find you. Kind of like the universe thing.
Mm-hmm.
They will find you. I mean, right now I have people calling me, asking me if I need their money, but I don't need their money because there's too much strings attached.
Yeah.
You know, they will find you. It's just you have to put yourself in that place where if you're successful, people will find you. I guarantee you. Yeah, and that's how you build your connection. Is you weed out the good from the bad, or the ones you need, the ones you don't need. So have faith and I didn't worry about connection. I didn't worry about having connection when I was starting out, but because what I was doing, my connection just kind of happened by itself.
Yeah. So you got to have big balls first. And then the big connections will come after, is what you're saying.
That's what you tried. She said it. I didn't say it. I didn't make her say it. No, for real, you gotta have big balls.
You gotta have big balls first.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I definitely feel like just you talking about risks, and like I think sometimes we're scared to pursue things, but then we don't realize that if we take $10,000, what that 10,000 could mean on the other side, right? We're just thinking losing 10,000, and so I think recognizing that you don't know the possibilities that are on the other side, and so whether that's losing 100,000 or like using 100,000, you don't know what exponentially that could become, and so just love your point on getting started and not being scared to take risks, because as we all know, big risk means big rewards sometimes.
Remember my first my assisted living business, I started with $20,000.
Yeah.
The first project we put in $20,000. And so this next one I'm asking the bank for 10 million, So I mean, I would never even imagine I would get to this point, but like you said, you got to start somewhere. You can't be afraid of losing that 20. If you're afraid, I tell people, if you're afraid of losing that 20, go home. Just put it in your pocket. Go enjoy yourself. Don't worry about business.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's the mind frame you got to have, is don't get comfortable. If you're afraid of losing, you're comfortable in your life. Yeah, don't be comfortable with yourself.
Oh, you say it like it's so easy. I know most of you guys watching out there, you're like 20,000, and if I just lose it, it's whatever. It's a lot of money, but I think
at that time I was poor as dirt, man. I know. $30,000 a year. That was a lot of money for me. 20,000, but I wasn't afraid. I was like, "Kalia, lose down, Kalia." You know what? I was 35. I was 35. The worst is, okay, I put 2-3 more years. I save another 20,
Yeah.
Do you know how old we are? This is a sign. This is a sign from the universe. Olivia and I are 35.
Yeah, I didn't start until late.
Wow, that's amazing.
That means we still have time, Callie. We still got time to grow some balls and some time to grow our network.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there
I'm
any
50 now, if you were wondering? So.
What's that?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Which is still, I mean, you're just living half your life, so that's absolutely amazing. But I mean, just back to that example, right? Like 20,000 that you put out, and now you're looking at borrowing 10 million, right? And like, if you had just
with zero down.
Yeah. So like, if you had not done anything, you wouldn't be here, right? Y'all talking with us on the show. Well, probably about
I'd still be 9 to 5, probably bring in 40,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy.
Yeah. So that's just absolutely amazing. Okay, we've taken enough of your time. I know it's late where you are. Is there any, like, if you just had one last piece of advice for us, what would you say?
don't be afraid. That's it. You know, and don't be afraid of the hard work. That's the dip. I keep telling my daughters, successful people, they do the hard stuff that other people don't want to do. Like, for example, let's say it's hard to get up early in the morning to go to school, right? For some folks. But if you make a point to go, you're gonna do fine in school, you know. And so do the hard stuff. For example, my business was not going well. I could have just cut my loss and said, "Here, forget it." I'm losing 60,000 a month. I could just cut my loss and say, "Forget it." But I stuck with it, and then bam, the governor lifted the COVID
the restriction
moratorium, and we got residents back in, and overnight we were making money again, you know. And so you have to do the hard stuff. If you need to stay until 2 in the morning, stay till 2 in the morning. I've done that, you know, stay 2 in the morning, or make the hard decision of doing stuff that you're uncomfortable with, meaning you don't have the skills for it. Like, I didn't know how to budget or write the right budget for the bank. I just kept doing it. And the bankers kept correcting me and say, "Hey, you got to do it this way." And so then the next banker, I do it that way, you know, and I kept learning.
Yeah.
Now I know how to write, how to put a budget together for bankers to look at, you know. I could be afraid and not touch it and not do it, but you can't and you can't be afraid of that. You got to do the hard stuff, which is learn new skills, right?
Yeah.
And then figure out what you need to do to be successful in your field. You know, those are the hard stuff. The easy stuff, you know, show up. It doesn't work. Go home, have coffee. You know, or if it doesn't work out, just fold it. Like, I learned this a long time ago. I was in wrestling in high school, and midway through the season, I quit. I quit the team. Man, I feel so bad that year. I not for the team, but for myself, that I quit. And from that moment on, I said to myself, I will never quit anything anymore, because the feeling was so bad for me. And so that kind of drove my life. Where when I was campaigning, I knocked on every door 3 times, you know, because I want to win. And for me to win, I got to earn the vote. And the voter has to be comfortable enough to vote for me. So I went to their house 3 times, and I saw them 3 times. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to vote for me. And that's the hard stuff, right? Most candidates don't want to go. Was I shy? I didn't want to knock on someone's stranger's door and talk to them. Yeah, that was hard, but I had to do it. I did it because I want to win, and I did it 3 times. I had 2 pairs of shoes, and both of them I wore out those shoes because I walked so much that year, you know. And that's what I mean. You got to do the hard stuff in your life to get to where you want to be. So that's like one advice I want to part with, you know, with anyone who's watching is don't do the easy stuff. Easy stuff, you ain't get nowhere. You got to do the hard stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, one last question. I lied. Okay, do you like read anything? Do you watch anything? Like, you know, how do you stay motivated?
So my last book was in college.
Wow.
But I read a lot. I don't read a whole novel, but I read newspapers. Like that morning, I would know every story, every leading story that day. You could quiz me, and I'll know every leading story that day. because I would have read 2 or 3 versions of that event. So I read constantly, everything, financial stuff, sports, politics, just even gossip stuff. I read constantly, so I read a lot. But for me, I have to, because of my training at the Capitol, I need to figure out what the story is within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I can't read a long book. I just don't have the attention span for it. But I would read I read ideas, and once I read that idea, I try to uh, um, make it make sense in my head, I guess. Yeah. So I read a lot, but not books. Sorry.
Got it. No, it's okay. I'm always curious to see what people are reading, listening to, like what keeps them going, right? Because I think that
I listen to Hmong music on YouTube a lot.
We do too.
So I know, like my Thao is really, well, she's kind of old news. Hua is like the up and coming YouTube Hmong singer. See, I know that.
You keep yourself current, which is important.
Yeah. All right. So we already took over 21 extra minutes of your time, which we're not paying for. So we better hurry up before you start billing us. But if people want to contact you, are they able to email you, or would you prefer nobody to go? Because you have a lot of
just
people
find me on Facebook and send me a message or something.
Yeah.
Just Thao, CYTHAO. Just send me a message. I normally answer them, even if from people I don't know. I'm not a jerk, so.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
It takes a while for you guys to track me down.
We didn't want to get rejected too. We were a little bit nervous of just asking, but thank you so much for coming on today and for sharing your knowledge. I mean, there's so many questions that we really want to ask, but that would really take all day and all night. And so thanks for just being here with us today and sharing, and just the fact that you've been able to, of course, open many doors for many people that you weren't able to share with us today. But I think that shows really how much we all need to be working as a Hmong community together, and that just as a great example aside, like that paves the way for all of us, and that sometimes you do have to kind of go that road alone, but it's important for us to keep pushing and for us to keep progressing, right? Because when you're up there, that's when you can actually reach down and help those that need the help, and that's very, very important for us, especially as Asian too, to be represented and to be in places that we've never been before. And again, that's super scary and super lonely, but it's very, very necessary, especially in these times of just all the Asian hate that we've seen. And so thank you everyone for joining us here tonight and participating, and for all the comments and positivity. Of course, here at All That Talk, we believe that conversations drive change, and change starts with you. And with that, we will see y'all next week. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, guys.